Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to spend the next 45 minutes or so with us. Today we're going to be talking about an architecture that we've created that we've entitled Defence Information. It's going to be using a couple of our absolutely key vendors in our portfolio, which are Nutanix and Palo Alto. And the goal behind this is to share with you what we're doing and give you a platform to enable you to go out to your customers and talk to them about how they can help to secure their hybrid and multi-cloud cloud environments. So if I run very quickly through the agenda for the call today, I'm going to introduce the speakers that we have this afternoon. I'm going to give a little bit of a conversation about some of the trends that we're seeing in the market, how we're driving and creating these differentiated propositions, and also importantly the benefits for you as a partner and how you can take advantage of these. I'll then be handing over to Palo Alto Networks for them to talk briefly about their technology that fits into this offering, and then we'll do the same with Nutanix. We'll bring it all together with a Q&A and a panel session towards the end. Then we'll close and summarize, and then finally I'll be announcing the winners of the 2 Apple Watches that we have. So speakers today, I'm going to be doing the first bit. My name is Justin Leonard. I am the Global Head of Cloud Transformation here at Exclusive Networks. I'm joined by Alex Berger from Palo Alto Networks. Alex works in the product marketing group for VM series, and also Eduardo Penedos, who's the business leader for networking and security for the EMEA region from Nutanix. So, as a way of introduction to this, I wanted to give a little bit of high level as to what we see as being the key market drivers. And really, for me, that boils down to the fact that every organization that we talk to is really trying to on the quest for this holy grail of digital transformation. And digital transformation is something that if you ask a room full of people what it means, you'll get 100 different answers. But organizations are looking to try and achieve this holy grail, this mecca of digital transformation. And that's from a backdrop of a very, very complicated landscape in terms of the technologies, in terms of all of the different vendors that can be utilized to drive that, with a wide range of different messages in and around how they can help. And whilst that's great, the challenge that organizations are facing is that they're struggling for skills in the IT industry. They're struggling to get people who can help them with these technologies. Second thing is that they're spending the vast majority of their IT budget and IT resource on simply keeping the lights on. So they don't have the people to be able to drive these next generation projects, nor do they have the time to go and invest and train these people to be able to go and do that. So it's really important for us as a channel that we can create propositions that are going to help our customers to achieve some of these goals, but also, and most importantly for the channel, propositions that enable you to differentiate yourselves. So the approach that we're taking is one that is looking at solutions that are use case led. So very, very clear in terms of where the sweet spot for these solutions are, and we'll hear today around the key use cases for this particular offering that we're bringing to market. And also it's about helping you to have the right conversations with the right customers. So what does a good customer look like? You know, what would be typically their pain points that this solution could address? And also, and equally as importantly, who are the key personas inside of your customers, and what are the different messages and different conversations you should be having with those individuals? Because the conversation that you might be having with the security team would be a very different conversation to one with the infrastructure team or to the IT management team, or up to the C level. And also, I think it's really important that, you know, that to have the credibility of solutions and offerings that are heavily supported by these market leading vendors. It makes it much easier to be able to go and talk to a customer when you're backed by well-known, well-respected, highly visible brands in the market, rather than trying to go and sell something that is that is less well known. And the final piece is what's in it for you. So the goal of what we're trying to achieve here is to help you to identify and expand on opportunities that you have within your customer base already. Okay, hopefully these solutions that we're bringing out, and this particular solution will help you to identify areas that you can go and expand your conversations, maybe into different parts of the customers that you're selling to today, or simply through expanding your portfolio and your brand into those accounts. Obviously, we want to help you to grow your revenue and also to help you retain more margin. Clearly, when you start to put solutions together as opposed to selling point products, it enables you to add a slight premium in terms of the margin, and it also gives you the opportunity to go and wrap your services around the offerings that you're taking to market. And then the final bit is that if these solutions and if this offering today can help you to help your customer on their digital transformation or their cloud transformation journey, then that's you helping them to be successful themselves. And what that does is that breeds an element of you getting more sticky and more intimate with your customers, which means that you can secure and retain incremental business as you go forward. So what I'm going to do now is I'm delighted to hand over to Alex Berger from Palo Alto Networks, and Alex is going to talk a bit about the Palo Alto technology that powers this solution, and how that is built into the offering, and how that will help you take your business forward. So Alex, thank you very much. Over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it. So good afternoon, everybody. As Justin mentioned, my name is Alex Berger, and I lead product marketing for our VM series, our virtual firewalls. So could we go ahead and advance to the next slide, please? All right, so Justin was talking about the digital transformation that a lot of our customers are going through. And we see this every single day. You know, we see, when we talk to customers, we see them describe a picture that looks kind of like this. And I imagine for many of you, this is what you walk into when you walk into a customer environment as well. And this is, you know, the goal of this diagram is not to actually follow every little arrow unless you really feel so inclined, but the point is the complexity here. And what we see on a daily basis when we come in and talk to network security professionals in particular is that the complexity of the environment has gotten to such a degree that they can't really wrap their arms around it. It becomes, and they either lack visibility or they lack the control mechanisms. And as a result, there are security gaps kind of throughout this entire picture. So what we're focused on at Palo Alto Networks right now is helping to navigate this complexity. And if you could advance to the next slide, please, that'd be great. The way we're helping to do that is through what has really transitioned into a platform approach. Obviously, everybody knows us for our next generation firewall appliances, that we've been selling for a long time. And those are, that is the backbone of the network security platform that we've built out, but it's not the end all be all. Ultimately, in order to address all of the complexity in the chart that we were looking at a minute ago, we had to extend our capability set beyond just the hardware appliances, and really take a more holistic approach to securing all the different components of a given environment. But ultimately, the goal is not to give our customers 100 products to solve 100 problems, right? Ultimately, the way to reduce complexity is to provide consistent security and consistent security management to all of the different parts of the environment that require it, and have that all kind of fall back into one management console, right? So if we crack open what we mean when we say the network security platform, it starts to give you a better picture of how we actually go about securing these multifaceted, complex environments. Slide, please. So what we're looking at here are the components of the security platform that we're talking about. As you can see on the bottom row here, we have our different form factor firewalls. So we've got our physical firewall, our PA series. That's the one that everybody knows, and that we've been selling tons of for many years. But while those firewalls are really good at providing perimeter security for a campus or a data center, there are places where you just can't put hardware, right? And for instance, virtualized environments or public cloud environments, places like that. And that's why we created the VM series, right? So the virtual form factor, which is the one that we're going to end up talking about as part of this solution today. And then we also have the ability to deliver firewalling as a service, so from the cloud. And that form factor opens up even more use cases for us. The point, though, is that all of these firewalls, regardless of form factor, have the same capability set. The operating system that underpins all of them is the same. And that means that you have consistency of capabilities regardless of which firewall you deploy where. On top of each of these form factors, you can layer in our subscriptions. And these subscriptions are full-blown products in and of themselves to address a myriad security challenges. So our threat prevention services, essentially our IPS, our intrusion prevention. We can do URL filtering as a subscription. We can do sandboxing with our Wildfire subscription service, DNS security, etc. So what's nice about this is any of these subscriptions can be deployed on any of our form factors. And again, the whole point is to be able to deliver the right security to the right part of the environment, regardless of where that is, right? Regardless of if it's a public cloud or a private cloud or a branch office or a campus or something like that. We want to be able to deliver the right level of security to that part of the environment in a platform that is consistent. And again, that consistency is really carried through via our management console, which is called Panorama. So all of this, the subscription services, all the different form factors, the entire platform can be managed and operated from Panorama Management Console. So for many of your customers, they may already have our physical firewalls in place and be using Panorama, in which case adopting this solution that we're going to talk about today, which leverages VM series in conjunction with Nutanix, will actually be easy. It'll, the same management console that they're using today for their existing firewalls, they'll be able to manage this solution through as well from a network security perspective, right? And again, this obviously from Palo Alto Networks, we look at this through the network security lens and that team's lens. And as we get into the rest of the conversation today, we'll talk a little bit more about all the different personas involved, from virtualization teams to network teams, et cetera, and how to kind of manage that. So slide, please. As I mentioned before, today we're going to stay focused on the VM series because that's the solution that is integral, or I should say the product that's integral to this solution. But I wanted to give you a lay of the land before we dove in. So in that massive picture that we were talking about before, there are some key challenges specific to the data center and hybrid cloud environment, right? Because in that graph before, we were looking at IoT and mobile, all sorts of other stuff. Let's set that stuff to the side for now and just focus on the data center and hybrid cloud security challenges. So The first one is from a network security perspective. In virtualized, in private cloud, and in public cloud environments, oftentimes network security lacks visibility and control. Virtualized traffic, predominantly east-west traffic, generally doesn't hit a firewall. And as a result, the network security team simply doesn't see it. They don't know about it. They don't know where it's going. Identifying what traffic is flowing where is a massive problem for many of our customers. And so even if they wanted to do things like segmentation, microsegmentation, et cetera, they can't, because they don't necessarily know where that traffic flow is going. And as a result, they can't write policies. So lack of visibility and control, that, by the way, is even more exacerbated in public cloud environments, where each public cloud has its own set of security capabilities. They have varying degrees of security capabilities, and when you're connecting your data center to your public cloud, in a hybrid cloud fashion, you really have to take both into consideration. And oftentimes, network security has nothing to do with public cloud protection, because there's no place to put a firewall and to plug in a firewall in a rack. And this kind of gets me to that second challenge, which is this inconsistent tooling and management, right? Each public cloud, as I mentioned, has a disparate set of capabilities. And then when you combine that with the fact that you're using physical firewalls in the data center, and you might be using an SDN platform like Nutanix Flow to do certain things, or whatever, like any myriad point solutions that you could put, IPS systems, things like that, into the network security of your data center, you've got all of these different tools. And it creates this swivel chair effect, right? Where the network security admin is bouncing around from console to console and trying to stitch a unified policy model across all of these different products. And it ends up, quite honestly, being spreadsheets where they're tracking things. And it's kind of a mess, which obviously flies in the face of adopting virtualized and cloud infrastructure to begin with, because the whole point of that infrastructure is to move as fast as possible, right, and to scale. And likewise, this leads into the third point here. A lot of the solutions that have been built for traditional network security lack the ability to be automated. They lack the ability to scale. Our hardware firewalls themselves, you can't just spin up a new hardware firewall, right? You have to ship it, you have to plug it in, configure the whole thing. It's a manual process. And it's for these reasons that we created VM-Series. So slide, please. VM-Series is a way to bridge the gap and provide consistent threat prevention and inline network security for these virtualized and public cloud environments, these environments where it can be difficult to deploy hardware or impossible, right? So you can see here, overarching, we've got three main use cases for the product: the public cloud side, the virtual data center and private cloud side, and then branches as well. We've seen a number of organizations start to use VM-Series in there to protect their branch locations, particularly as they move to a software-defined branch model. Obviously, for today's purposes, we're mainly focused on that middle column with a little bit on the left side there. So I mentioned this before, but this slide really brings it home, right? The idea here is that we have the breadth of capabilities you need to secure a data center, a hybrid cloud, from both a north-south traffic perspective and an east-west traffic perspective. So you can see, by putting a physical firewall at the perimeter of your data center, connecting that to a VM-Series running in a public cloud environment, you've now built a secure connection between your data center and your public cloud to achieve hybrid cloud. Then if you go within that, within each of those environments, segmentation becomes key, because while any vendor, particularly security vendors, who tell you that they can stop everything is probably a security vendor that you don't want to trust, right? So while having perimeter security in place is really important, it's not necessarily the end all be all. And that's where segmentation and microsegmentation come into place. From a VM-Series perspective, you can deploy VM-Series between container environments, physical environments, and virtual environments. Obviously, we require the hypervisor to run. We are a VM form factor. But there's lots of different ways to deploy us. in order to achieve segmentation. And that segmentation conversation really comes down to a strategic conversation with your customers about how far they want to go, what's important to them, and how and what their level of risk tolerance is really as an organization. Because you can of course do a broad scale kind of macro segmentation approach where you build some very kind of high level segments within the environment, or you can get down to a very granular level and try to segment at the individual workload level, microsegmentation. And Eduardo is going to talk about that and how Nutanix Flow actually makes that way easier to do. But VM series is there to insert kind of the next level security beyond just port blocking, right? So ultimately, because we have all of those subscription services that you can deploy on the VM series, it allows you to put the level of security that you need in between any of those segments at any given time. So a really good example of this is something like an environment where you have credit card information hosted, in a portion of the environment, and you want to segment that off from the rest of the environment, right? It's one thing to just deny traffic between that environment and the rest of the environment, but obviously that's not always an easy thing to do. Oftentimes that PCI or credit card information environment needs to be able to talk to other assets within the organization, even things like shared services, things like DNS, etc. And so when you open up those allowed connections, VM series is there to inspect that traffic, right? So we'll talk a little bit more about the distinctions between microsegmentation and port-based, port-based access control versus next generation firewalling and the advanced security services like things like threat prevention. But this kind of gives you a lay of the land in terms of how VM series plays in the broader picture of an environment. Now, what I think would probably be best is for me to hand the ball off to Eduardo to talk about how Nutanix and Nutanix Flow in particular actually make this whole process of deploying VM series and doing microsegmentation way easier. So Eduardo, over to you.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Justin, for the introduction. So let me start by thank you all for your presence today and recognize the fact that we are working from home and facing challenging times. I wish you all the best and stay safe at home, please. So my name is Eduardo Peneiros and I'm the business leader for network and security in EMEA. I'm leading the product Nutanix Flow and BIM. So I'm here at Nutanix for the last 4 years now. And before that, I was 8 years at VMware. So can we move the slide, please? Thank you. So on the challenge that Alex just mentioned, we are just moving to the multi-cloud security challenge also, instead of just the network security challenge, recognizing the fact that there is a multi-vendor approach that makes security more complex because each vendor focuses on their own products. This is something today that between Palo Alto and Nutanix we are addressing, and I hope to show you this later in the later slides. Recognizing the fact that the digital transformation also implies that most of our customers move to a hybrid cloud model and with multiple clouds, and that will make more complex for customers and for IT and security personnel to have a complete view of the security. So in fact, it may go or lead to the situation to increase the risks. And then recognizing another fact that most of teams inside our own organization have different approach to securities. And we need to tie all of that thing together to provide a response to the security challenge that we have in front of us. But if we look to the numbers, to the recent numbers that have been published, these numbers are a testament of the challenge that we have in front of us. They keep rising every single quarter. So there is a lot of work in terms of security and compliance that we need to address with solutions that are simple to implement, are easy to operate for our customers. Next slide, please. Okay. Let me just put a little bit of context talking about Flow. Flow, it's one of the solutions that Nutanix has built in top of the AOS, which is the hyperconverged stack. As you know, Nutanix has built our own hypervisor called AHV, and we decided also to develop a set of solutions to security environments based on AHV. So that's where Flow comes in place. So Flow, it's a feature product that works in top of AOS and AHV and allow customers to create security policies for applications that are completely independent of the network architecture. As you can see, we have a set of products that covers a lot of things that we are not going to talk today. So just to position Flow where Flow belongs, it's a security product in top of AHV, our own hypervisor. Next slide, please. So talking to the perimeter, we have to recognize that this type of defense is no longer enough and needs to evolve in a way that helps organizations face the challenge that they have in front of them. In this model, there is a lack of a unified solution. Most of the times adds complexity and touch a point that it's very tough for most of our customers. That's the resource consumption that really makes these solutions most of the time not even practical to continue to operate in this model. Also, the process of upgrade and patching, it's also very time consuming and very prone to errors. And that's an area also where we need to address very careful how we change this type of defense in a way that we solve these existing problems with this type of defense perimeter. Starting by the security first approach and how Nutanix built the product, we have combined a set of hardware and software in a form factor called HCI that we simplify all of the operations in this environment. We add and build this solution with STIG that are certified for AOS and AHV. It means that our customers, when they implement a solution based on iOS and AHV, they have already a security certification in process, at least based on the best practice. And we also simplify and automate all the software upgrades, hypervisor upgrade, BIOS, BMC, firmware upgrades for our customers. It makes all the process of upgrading the software for this platform much more easy for our customers and less prone to human errors. And this is really very, very important. So it's a way for us to build a solution that is really very simple to use. In fact, we want this solution to be as simple as use as any public cloud. So any user can go in and start consuming infrastructure in a very easy way that provides not only the environment, but also the security to deploy the applications that the customers need to run. So we are moving to a more application-centric approach to security. Sorry. So based on taking an application-centric security approach and talking about microsegmentation, Flow is a solution that allows, of course, microsegmentation, that allows visualization of incoming and outgoing flows, that provides analytics based on patterns of the traffic, and allow us to group applications and application tiers with the English-like text that allows users to easily write policies for application security policies, which it's completely independent of the hardware that that is underlying or about the network configurations that are on the infrastructure. That allows customers to focus really on the application, on the workloads, how the application talk between all of those tiers, and provide a visualization of that traffic that allows customers to discover the traffic and start building rules based on that discovery traffic. So Flow, as I told you, it's natively built as part of IHV, so there is no software to install, there is no deployment for Nutanix Flow. It's already included in the product. It's licensed, but it's included in the product, so there is no need to install or to deploy controllers. It's completely built in. It provides visualization, policy, microsegmentation, and most of the network automation capabilities, like the ones I'm going to talk about for Palo Alto. And it's attached with a one-click simplicity of Nutanix. So all of those upgrades of hypervisors, upgrades of software are being done directly by the one-click process that completely simplifies the upgrade process for our customers. So in fact, as I mentioned several times, there is no configurations and no changes to the current infrastructure to use Flow. You don't need to change your VLANs, nothing. It's completely independent of the network infrastructure. There is nothing to install, as I told. It's out of the box in top of IHV for users for customers to consume. So we can start group VMs based on the application topology. So it's a way for us to identify application types, then application tiers, and start building rules. So in this example, there is an application that has web servers, that has application servers, database servers. So those are application tiers that make part of a specific application type. That could be CRM or any application type. And then based on those rules, the product starts discovering the traffic between those tiers, and we start building policies and monitor those policies. And if necessary, the ultimate goal is to enforce those policies in the product itself. So we protect the inbound, the outbound, and the communication between the different tiers and within the tiers, because it be important also that the VM web server 1 cannot talk to the web server 2 in the same tier, but could talk to the application tier, both VMs. So, and that is very simple to define. It's an application policy that use English tags. Based on those tags, I can create these policies independent of the network, of the IP addresses, of the VLANs that are defined. I can go on the port level if I want to, and define which traffic it's allowed between those communications and which port we allow the traffic, but we don't need to worry about the IP addresses. That's very important because now we can change our application. We can change the physical environment where those applications run, and the policies continue to operate without any change. So regarding Palo Alto, we have built a solution that is integrated with Palo Alto that allows us to orchestrate Palo Alto provisioning in Nutanix nodes and provide service chaining to Palo Alto so that the communication between the tiers and between the VMs can go over Palo Alto for layer 7 inspector or big packet inspection functionality of the Palo Alto. Again, if we recall the first slide where we talk about multi-vendors, what we have built here is a solution that in the fashion of Nutanix one-click, it deploys automatically the VM series from Palo Alto in those nodes, make all the necessary configurations, create the service insertion automatically and starts creating policies inside Flow that use that service insertion. So that makes it very easy for our customers to start consuming this new way of doing security using Palo Alto VM series for those high-level functionalities, completely integrated in the Flow policy policy editor that's in the tool. So all of this is managed centrally by Prism Central. So customer has one point of entry to make all of these policies, including the service training to Palo Alto. So that's where Calm come to play. We have a blueprint that automatically builds this VM series virtual appliance inside the Nutanix nodes and create the service training automatically. So in this case, if I want the web tier to talk to the database tier, I can define the port and I can define the service training. It means that in this scenario, the web server to talk to the database server will go over the Palo Alto series for deep packet inspection, and it's simple to configure as it is on this screen. So one of the topics is for Nutanix customers, and what are the major use cases that we see today using Flow. And of course, Alex told about virtualized data centers, and that's obviously the big one. But there are customers using Flow for different use cases. Of course, VDI and ID firewalling, it's one of the biggest use cases that today users are looking for Flow. We have huge use cases in the last quarter just on VDI use case. We have also for the network and application segment customers that need to isolate PCI environments, test and development environments. That's something that it's very easy to build around Flow, and customers are using that for policy compliance with PCI, with HIPAA around those environments. And of course, the discover and visibility that we offer in Flow allow customers to start discovering the traffic that they don't even know that they exist in the Northeast communications in data center, because they used to have a perimeter defense, and based on that perimeter defense, the communications between east, west in the data center are much more complex to discover. And Flow in these virtualized environments has the ability to discover these traffics, provide visibility of this traffic, and then help the customer build policies for that traffic that has been discovered, which makes it very easy to extend security to the east-west communication data center that was not being handled by most of the customers. And I pass to Justin from here. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
Any questions, please shoot.
Thanks, Eduardo. So got a few questions already coming in. So I'm guessing that this one's going to be for you, Eduardo. How does Flow interact with VXLAN/EVPN?
That's a very good question. In fact, we don't do VXLAN at this point. We are partnering with Network Alliance that do that for us. So we have deep integration with Flow and Cumulus Network, with Juniper, with Arista, that handles all of that EVPNs and the VXLANs for our platform. So today there is a set of alliance that Nutanix has. Flow is part of those alliance that facilitates the customer for using VXLAN and EVPN based on those solution vendors.
Okay,
Perfect. Thank you. Hopefully that's answered the question that's come in. Then one of the other questions that has come through relates to what does a target customer look like in terms of, you know, who's this applicable for? So I'll maybe take a first whack at that one. So quite clearly, existing Nutanix or Palo Alto customers, where they want to extend and expand, you know, the value that they're getting out of some of their existing investments. The second one is customers who are either virtualizing data centers or endpoints in order to keep pace with business demands. And I think that's quite applicable today, as we've seen, you know, pretty much overnight across, not just across EMEA, but across the globe, people being stuck at home and having to work from home. You know, so that's really key. Customers who are trying to adopt either a hybrid or a multi-cloud strategy, you know, that again is a critical one for them. And the other bit, which I think we touched on in Alex's play, was customers in highly regulated industries where, you know, we need to get a prioritization on performance and security. So those would be, you know, the kind of target customers that I would see. And yeah, Alex, Eduardo, anything to add on those? Anything that I've missed?
The only thing I might add is, you know, we're actually at this point encountering customers who have stated, or I should say slated microsegmentation or segmentation projects on their books for the year. So we actually have been encountering that. It's worth a question to your customers if that's something that is specifically a priority, because, you know, obviously that indicates a clear it's a clear indication that a solution exactly like this would be applicable. It's something, you know, so before I worked for Palo Alto Networks, I worked for VMware actually on NSX, which is a similar technology to Nutanix Flow, and we were seeing customers as well, even a year or two ago, starting to think in terms of microsegmentation projects. So you know, just another thing to kind of to keep an eye out for. Sometimes it's data center transformation, sometimes it's virtualization, like you were saying, Justin. But yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Perfect. Thanks.
Justin, I completely agree with that. As I said, most of use cases we see, it's about network. It's about environment isolation. So for PCI, DSS. For segregating environments, we even have some service providers segregating customers using Flow. So that's the part of the virtualized data center. We have seen lately a huge concern on VDI environments and protecting VDI environments, and also integrating file services in that protection level. And we have seen very good traction on those areas also.
Perfect. Thanks, Eduardo. Got time for one more quick one before we do the draw of or announce the winners of the Apple Watch. So who would be the key contacts within the customer that we would need to talk to, and what would they be interested in? Why would they be interested in this? So for me, I think there's three. So there's the security team, who are looking at maintaining the visibility and governance across their ecosystem, which is becoming increasingly more challenging and more dispersed. There's the infrastructure team, which is struggling with how do they meet the expectations of the business to deliver this digital transformation without actually security and governance slowing them down. there's quite often friction in these organizations between infrastructure and security, that the business wants to go faster, but the security guys are the ones that are putting the brakes on. And then, from an IT management perspective, they're looking at how do they leverage existing investments. This isn't about us going out and saying, throw away everything that you've done already and start with something new. This is about saying, here's how you can extend and expand the investment that you've made to get incremental value as you're moving into this more complex virtualized multi-cloud architecture. Again, Alex, Eduardo, any quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, the one thing I'll kind of add is that a solution like this is in a lot of ways a great unifier. As these environments, as our customer environments become more and more complicated, I think there's a lot of confusion over who owns what, oftentimes, and we're seeing kind of the traditional IT silos begin to dissolve a little bit, and everybody, in IT sort of has to wear multiple hats and have an understanding of each other's disciplines. And a solution like this actually allows you to break down those walls even quicker, because in order to be effective, it does require bringing the right people to the table and having a global conversation. So that could be seen as a benefit rather than as a source for additional complexity.
Excellent. Eduardo, any final points on that?
Completely agree with the last comment from Alex, because we have been experienced, as you know, by building the HCI platform and combining storage, servers, virtualization in the same stack. We have been also a unifier in that space, and now bringing the flow piece and the integration with Palo Alto, we are also extending that collaboration with the other teams. Although we see that today the primary buyer for this solution, it's still the core HCI buyer, which has been the core that has go over these conversations about virtualization, server, storage, so that combined approach, and the virtualization and the application owners that needs to provide additional security for the applications. Those two are the primary buyers, so they cover more or less 80%. The rest is, of course, the security SME, the IT director. That's the other 20% goes on that range.
Okay, perfect. So there's a couple of things in terms of next steps. We've obviously got all of you who have attended. So your local exclusive team will contact you in the next week to define the next steps and follow-ups locally. We've also got a raft of collateral and assets that sit behind this that we will obviously provide to you to help you use with your customers. So this is a well thought out solution with resource and assets that sit behind it to enable you to go and take this out to market. So the final thing is just to congratulate our two winners of the Apple Watches, which is Frederick Rombo from Net Nordic and Olivier Rigal. And apologies, Olivier, if I've got the pronunciation of your surname wrong. And Olivier's from SecureLink. So we'll contact you directly to arrange delivery. But thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to spend with us today. We hope it's been of value and of use. And as always, please let us know if there's any feedback around anything we've particularly missed or anything you liked, or anything that you'd like to see us do differently in the future. So with that, I'll give you 8 minutes to the top of the hour back. Thank you very much indeed, and enjoy the rest of your day.